My friends, I was not expecting to make another Twine video so soon after my previous one, but suffice to say, it just keeps happening. We broke the game, or at least one level thus far, with this stack of carpets, a skip that has cut off 24 seconds on the stage since my previous video only days ago. So let's get into it, my friends, and here we go.
Here we go!
Alright, so the metaphorical paint was still drying on my previous video about recent speedrun developments in The World Is Not Enough, particularly on the levels Underground Uprising and Turncoat. And so I was keen to pick up the controller and play a bit of Twine myself, perhaps trying a bit to lower some of my own personal bests and see if I could even nab a cheeky world record. You know, sometimes after spending time editing a video, you get kind of keen to pick up the controller and play, and that's what I wanted to do. But in order to do all that, I was going to have to learn a small time-saving trick that I wasn't very good at, but which world record holder Henrik Norgren was able to pull off regularly. Namely, this thing here, which we call the vase jump. A relatively intuitive name, given that we use this vase to gain a bit of height, just enough height so we can jump, clear the railing, and land in the area below, cutting off this corner and going down the staircase as intended. Something that might save only about 1 or 2 seconds, you're just cutting off a bit of a corner, but a time saver nonetheless. And yes, jumping is probably the main piece of movement in Twine that is not in Perfect Dark or GoldenEye, and a part of what makes the gameplay unique, just for strategy possibilities like this. So I went to the area on Turncoat, this ending area which we call the Bazaar area, because that's apparently what it is. I cleared out the guards and I started practicing the vase jump. It requires a pretty precise turn and a well-timed jump in order to jump as you're just reaching the peak height while strafing at full speed into the vase, and I was struggling with it, so I started looking for alternatives. Looking around the bazaar area, I noticed this stack of carpets near a railing earlier on the bazaar. This is actually where you first land when you jump through that skylight into the bazaar from some kind of rooftop. So I pondered, could we use these carpets to jump over the rail here instead? Now, if this were possible, it would save a lot more time than the vase jump, which just cuts off that one measly corner. A carpet jump would actually skip out 3 rooms of the ending bazaar area, and not only that, but it would end up skipping 3 hostages, which are all significant points of potential failure, given the trollery of the game and just how often guards blast away at the hostages for no reason, causing you to fail the mission. The room you would theoretically land in is this room, which usually has the 3rd of 4 bazaar hostages in it, but because you're accessing it unconventionally, or you would be, the guards and hostage would not be loaded. So if the carpet jump were possible, it would change the ending from requiring to save 4 hostages in the bazaar to only 1. And even at that, the final 1 hostage is so close to the ending that you could probably just strafe by him right towards the ending without failing, since you would get to the end before the hostage taker realizes what's happening, turns, and fires at the hostage. And not only that, but the whole level would be way easier to survive, especially on Secret and Double Agent, because you'd be encountering significantly fewer guards in at least 3 whole sections and rooms of this bazaar. Guards who are very keen to end your runs at the last second, dealing a ton of damage. So yeah, the carpet skip would save a lot of time and make it easier to survive the stage. Now, I could have kept this thought to myself, potentially even experimented with it for a few days, found a way to make it work, hoarded the records to myself, and come out with some heroic unhoard video revealing my secret and records. But screw that. I simply shared my thoughts and postulations with the Twine community with this screenshot, crudely circling the carpets, pondering if a carpet jump were possible. A couple of us tried for a little bit, but to no luck. And that all changed an hour later when Henrik Norgren, Twine champion, showed up. LOL, I got the carpet jump first try. Needed to jump more left though, past the invisible wall. Perhaps it was Henrik's knowledge of the level and game to a large extent, where he knew there was an invisible wall here, and this realization is what led him to jumping on either side of it, which was able to help him make it work pretty quickly in his experimentations. And so it was on. A strategy that just came to me while messing around on the level actually worked, and Henrik was able to get it to work very quickly. Now here's where we would usually see a bit of a gold rush, and in the heyday of GoldenEye, when a new strategy like this was discovered, we would definitely see dozens, if not hundreds of players rush to their game and go for world records. Now in Twine, we saw the handful of active players play it and do what they could best. Moments later, and keep in mind the world record on Agent was 147 at this time, Henrik posts 143 first try, missed last door. The handful of us waited in suspense for a video, and indeed multiple videos would come a few hours later. Now keep in mind, the records on Turncoat before all this began, so at the beginning of the year, while Twine was still in that catatonic, dormant state, the records were Agent 148, Secret Agent 153, and 00 Agent 203. The records when I hit export on my previous video, so after a bit of development and progress in the game, a few months of play and activity, but still before discovering this carpet jump, the records then were Agent 147, Secret Agent 150, 00 Agent 156. A few hours of play with the carpet skip later, and Henrik shared records of Agent 140, Secret Agent 143, 00 Agent 147. This cut off a grand total of 23 seconds from where the records were previously that night, or 34 seconds from where the world record stood at the beginning of the year. 34 seconds. Bo Peep pretty quickly tied the 140 on Agent once he woke up and learned about the strategy, and a few others submitted personal records on the stage. Lower might be possible all around, given that this all happened on day one of the carpet skip, but yeah, 34 seconds cut on just one of the game's 14 levels. I can't help but feel that this is just the very beginning of the Twine Renaissance, and that there could be discoveries just as huge, if not bigger, on many more, if not all stages in the game. And the story continues to progress day after day, moment after moment, as Weister has lowered everything once more with Agent 139, Secret Agent 142, and 00 Agent 144. Just truly remarkable to think. That's 9 seconds on Agent and Secret from the beginning of the year, and 19 seconds on 00 Agent, for a grand total of 37 seconds cut on the stage in 2025. You really think it's quite rare in GoldenEye and Perfect Dark, which are the games that I naturally compare this to, given they've had a lot of activity and they play similarly, to see a time cut this massive. We can probably count on two hands over the last 20 years the times we've seen time cuts like this. But it's so rare to find these moments where we find a new strategy in a Nintendo 64 game from all this time ago, and they're really amazing moments. And the fact this happened just moments after I exported my last video, before it even went live, is amazing. But maybe that's a part of it too, because I was sort of in the mood to browse around the level, strafe around, explore, and see what I could see. And it really makes you wonder, this Turncoat level is just one of the game's 14 levels. Now, it happens to be the level that I've taken the most interest in. It's the one that I first streamed when I streamed Twine back in March, and I did the first Speedlore episode on, and I did about half a video on just the other day. So it is the level we focused on the most, but we still found this pretty much breaking strategy on this level. And it makes you realize, or at least think, if we focus on the game's other levels, will we break things as well? And, it's possible that we don't, and this is the most significant thing that we find amidst this whole Twine Renaissance, but it's equally possible that, we do break all the other levels in the same way. I just think of some other stages, like Masquerade has a lot of sort of up-down, vertical types of movements and a couple of cutscenes that break up the gameplay. Could something be skipped here? there's a good chance on that. Or, King's Ransom is similar, a lot of vertical play, a lot of objectives, some that we already know how to skip, but could there be even more with, more looks and more experimentation? Even on Turncoat, believe it or not, there's still this extra strategy that I deeply ponder where pretty early on, like 3 turns, 3 roads into the level, there's this big door right here. Now at the very end of the level, I do believe that this door, literally at the end of the stage, is the other side of that door. Now the door is locked. From the outside, it doesn't even tell us that it's a door, which is kind of weird. There's some other locked gates and stuff that do show that they're locked if you press B at them. This one on the outside doesn't even acknowledge it's a door. But from the inside, it does say it's locked. And so, could this be the next step on this stage? Literally going from 3 turns into the level to the very ending. If we somehow find a way to, warp through the door, unlock the door, lure the door open, glitch through the wall, it's sort of an endless discussion that you can just imagine and brainstorm on how this might be possible. Now, it's just a theoretical strategy. There's no evidence that it could be possible. There's nothing to suggest that it's doable. But then again, this was true of strategies like, say, barrier skip in Wind Waker, or carpetless in Super Mario 64, and eventually over years and years and years, we found a way to make it happen because we really just wanted to make it happen. The scientists of the game drilled down and found a way to make it work. And, even if that's never possible on Turncoat, it is still amazing what's been achieved so far, and what will be achieved in other stages. And the more eyes and strategies that get looked upon in the game, the more likely it is to happen. Another funny little side story that I'm reminded of is way back in the day, I was playing GoldenEye, and I found something interesting on Surface 1, where you could kind of see into the ending ventilation tower, and I wondered if you could warp right through it without shooting the locks off. And I remember I made a whole video or topic about it back in the day in the GoldenEye forum, and Henrik, who's sort of the most bright and brilliant of GoldenEye and Twine scientists, was amazed that I actually suggested something, notable. I was trolling quite a bit at the time, and he was like, I can't believe Goose suggested something that wasn't a troll. Now, unfortunately, that strategy never worked, because you do have to shoot off the 4 locks on Surface 1 in order for the level to recognize that you've completed it and to sort of activate the end loading zone of the stage. But it kind of just hit me that, I guess as time goes on and hopefully you mature a bit as a person, here's me and Henrik collaborating on this strategy now, nearly 20 years later. Maybe 10, I forget exactly when that'll happen, but still, it's just kind of an amazing reflection or symmetry there to see, me suggesting this carpet strategy and Henrik putting it to good use and nailing the technique. So yeah, there's just another amazing strategy. We broke Turncoat, or at least a huge skip was discovered from the carpets, a pile of carpets, incredible skip, and that's how we cut over 30 seconds from a stage in The World Is Not Enough. Who knows what is next, my friends, but keep your eyes peeled on this channel and you'll be among the first to find out. Hopefully I might make a few other non-Twine videos in the meantime, but really, a new strategy could come out tomorrow, and there we go again. So hey, thank you all for watching. Thanks to the channel members and Patreon supporters for your support of my work. Stay true, and I'll see you in the next stream or video.